I was folding laundry when my phone buzzed with my fiancé's name. Ethan never called during work hours. Never. Did you say that? He asked. My stomach dropped. Say what? That you're only with me for my money. I laughed at first, an automatic, disbelieving sound, until he said the name. My cousin Emma. She told me everything. My hands went cold. Everything was the word people used right before your life split in half. She said you admitted it, Ethan continued, his voice steady but strained. That you bragged about locking me down before I realized what you were doing. I sank onto the couch, my heart pounding in my ears. That's a lie, I whispered. I never said that. Not once. I know, he said quietly. That's why I'm calling. I exhaled until he added, but she's already telling our family. And just like that, I knew this wasn't gossip. It was an attack. Tell me exactly what she said, I whispered, gripping the edge of the couch like it was the only thing keeping me upright. Ethan exhaled slowly, on the other end of the line. She said you told her you never loved me, that I was just convenient. He paused. That marrying me meant you'd never have to worry about money again. My chest tightened. That doesn't even make sense. You know I was working 2 jobs when we met. I know, he said immediately. I remember. I watched you come home exhausted, still answering emails at midnight. I'm not calling because I believe her. That was the first time all day I could breathe. Then why are you calling? I asked. Because of what she said next. There it was. That shift in his tone. The warning before the drop. She told me she couldn't stay quiet anymore, Ethan continued. That our families deserved to know the truth about you. And then she said she was on her way to tell them. My heart slammed against my ribs. Tell who? My parents. Yours. Anyone who would listen. I stood up so fast the room spun. When did she leave? Maybe 10 minutes ago. I grabbed my keys. I can get there first. Are you sure that's a good idea? He asked. She's lying. I cut in. And if I don't get ahead of it, she's going to rewrite my entire life before I even open my mouth. Silence stretched between us for a second. Then Ethan said, I'm leaving work now. I'll meet you there. I didn't reply. I was already out the door. The drive felt unreal, like I was moving through a tunnel. Every red light felt personal. Every slow car in front of me felt like an obstacle deliberately placed in my way. Emma. My cousin. The girl who hugged me at every holiday. Who toasted to my engagement with tears in her eyes. Who told me she was so happy I finally found someone who took care of me. I had thought that was support. Now I heard it differently. My phone buzzed again. A text from my mother. Where are you? Emma is very upset. I didn't respond. Another buzz. What did you do to her? My hands tightened around the steering wheel. I hadn't even arrived yet, and somehow, I was already guilty. That's when the fear settled in. Not the fear of losing an argument, but the deeper one. The fear that once a lie was planted in the right soil, it didn't matter how much truth you poured on top of it. Some people didn't want answers. They wanted confirmation. And Emma knew exactly that. I pulled into my parents' driveway with my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Emma's car wasn't there yet. Relief hit me so fast my knees almost gave out. I had time. Not much, but enough to warn them. Enough to speak first. I walked into the house without knocking. The familiar smell of coffee and lemon cleaner wrapped around me, grounding and suffocating at the same time. My mom was wiping down an already spotless counter. My dad sat at the table scrolling on his phone. They both looked up, startled. What are you doing here? My mother asked. I took a breath. I had rehearsed this on the drive. Calm, clear, controlled. Something happened with Emma, I said carefully. She told Ethan something that isn't true, and I wanted to explain before. My mother's expression shifted instantly. Her lips pressed into a thin line I remembered from childhood. What did you do to upset her? I blinked. I didn't. My dad sighed loudly and set his phone down. Here we go again. The words hit harder than I expected. I'm trying to tell you what's actually happening, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. She's lying. She told Ethan I'm only with him for his money. My mom crossed her arms. Why would she make that up? That was the question, wasn't it? I don't know, I said honestly. But she did. And she's telling people. My dad leaned back in his chair, studying me like he was already forming a verdict. Emma wouldn't say something like that without a reason. There it was. Not is this true? Not are you okay? Just the assumption that if Emma was upset, I must have caused it. I've worked since I was 16, I said, my voice tightening. I paid my own way through school. Ethan and I split everything. You know this. My mom shook her head slowly. You've always been good at making things sound better than they are. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. I came here to explain, I said quietly. Not to be accused. Before either of them could respond, the front door opened. Emma walked in, already crying. Her mascara streaked down her cheeks. Her hands trembled as she clutched her purse to her chest like a lifeline. My mother rushed to her immediately. "Oh, honey, what happened?" Emma collapsed into her arms, sobbing. "I didn't want to say anything," she cried. "I really didn't. But I can't keep pretending everything's fine." My mom shot me a sharp look over Emma's shoulder. "What did you do now?" I stood there, frozen, as my parents guided her to the table, surrounding her like she was the one who'd been wronged. I hadn't even finished my first sentence. And already, I was the villain. Again. Emma sat at the kitchen table like she might shatter at any second. My mother pushed a glass of water toward her, rubbing slow circles on her back. My father hovered nearby, his face tight with concern. No one looked at me. "I didn't want to come here," Emma said between shaky breaths. "I tried to let it go. I really did." Her voice was soft, fragile, perfectly calibrated. "You can tell us anything," my mother said. "Whatever it is." Emma glanced at me, just for a second. Behind the tears, something flickered, cold, sharp, satisfied. Then she looked back at my parents. She told me she only married Ethan for his money. The room went silent. I felt the words land like a physical blow. "That's not true," I said immediately. "That's a complete lie." Emma shook her head slowly, sadly. I didn't want to believe it either. But she said it. She laughed about how easy it was. About how she never had to worry again. "That never happened," I said, my voice rising. "I never said anything like that. Ever." My father folded his arms. Why would she lie about something so specific? "I don't know," I said. "But she is." Emma dabbed at her eyes. "She told me Ethan was just a paycheck. That she finally found someone who could take care of her." My chest burned. "I take care of myself." I pulled my phone out with shaking hands. "Look," I said, scrolling frantically. "Look at my bank account. This is my savings from before I even met him. This is my salary. I worked 2 jobs in college. I paid my own loans." I held the screen out to my mother. She didn't even glance at it. Instead, she looked at me with that familiar expression, tired, disappointed, like I was a child caught in a lie. "Anyone can fake numbers," my father said dismissively. "You've always been good at playing the victim." Something cracked inside my chest. "I'm not asking you to choose sides," I said, my voice shaking now. "I'm asking you to listen." Emma sniffed, her shoulders trembling. I hate that I had to be the one to say it, but someone had to protect Ethan. "Protect him. From me." My mother nodded slowly. "We raised you better than this." The words made my stomach drop. I looked around the kitchen, the place I grew up, the table I did homework at, the walls that had watched me become an adult, and realized I was standing in front of a jury that had already reached a verdict. I hadn't been invited here to explain. I had been summoned to be judged. And Emma sat at the center of it all, crying on cue, while my life unraveled one lie at a time. The front door opened so hard it rattled the frame. Ethan stepped inside, his chest rising and falling like he'd run the entire way. His eyes moved quickly around the room, Emma at the table, my mother beside her, my father standing rigid near the counter. Then they landed on me. I was still holding my phone out, frozen in place. "I came as fast as I could," Ethan said, walking straight to me. He put a hand on my back, solid and grounding. What did I miss? I swallowed. "Emma told them I married you for your money. She says I confessed it to her. That I laughed about it." Ethan's jaw tightened. He turned to my parents. "That's ridiculous." My mother tilted her head, studying him with something like pity. "You seem like a nice man, Ethan. That's why we're worried about you." "I've been with your daughter for 3 years," he said evenly. "I watched her refuse my help when she was drowning in student loans. She insisted we split everything. She has never once asked me for money." My father waved a hand. "That's how manipulators work. They play the long game." I felt my breath catch. "You don't get to call me that." Ethan stiffened. "With all due respect, you don't know her the way you think you do." "Ido." My mother shook her head slowly. "She has a way of fooling people. She always has." The words landed with a dull finality. "I'm standing right here," I said, stepping forward. "Why are you talking about me like I'm not in the room?" No one answered. My father turned his full attention to Ethan. "Son, I'm going to give you some advice. Don't marry her. Walk away now, before she takes everything from you." Something in me snapped. I moved between them without thinking, placing myself directly in front of Ethan. "Stop. You don't get to discuss my relationship like I'm an object. This is my life." My father didn't even look at me. "We thought you'd changed," he said to Ethan. "We really did. We thought she'd grown out of her tendencies." "Tendencies?" I repeated. "What tendencies?" My mother's voice dropped, quiet and sharp. Don't do this. No, I said. I want to understand. What exactly have I done that makes it so easy for you to believe I'm capable of this? She met my eyes then, and there was no confusion there. No doubt. Just certainty. You've always needed to be the center of attention, she said. Always turning things into drama. We were finally at peace, and now you're tearing the family apart again. Again. That was the moment it clicked. This wasn't about Emma's lie. This was about permission. Permission to see me the way they always had. As the problem. The disappointment. The daughter who said too much and refused to fit quietly into place. Emma hadn't convinced them. She'd just given them what they were waiting for. We left without another word. I could hear my mother calling my name as the door closed behind us, saying I was being dramatic, that I was proving her point. I didn't turn around. If I did, I knew I would break. The car ride was silent for the first few minutes. Ethan's hands were locked on the steering wheel, knuckles white. My chest felt hollow, like everything inside me had been scooped out and replaced with air. They didn't even look at the proof, he said finally. His voice was low, controlled. Your mom didn't glance at your phone. Your dad dismissed it like it was nothing. They didn't want to know, I replied quietly. Saying it out loud made it real. They wanted permission. Ethan nodded once. That's exactly what Emma gave them. I stared out the window, watching streetlights blur past. The image of Emma crying at the table replayed in my mind, but now, stripped of its power, it looked rehearsed. Too perfect. Too polished. There's something else, Ethan said after a moment. I wasn't sure it meant anything before today. I turned to him. What? The way Emma acts around Ryan. I frowned. Ryan was Ethan's cousin, charming, successful, effortlessly confident. He showed up at holidays, weddings, family barbecues. I'd never thought much about him beyond polite conversation. She changes, Ethan continued. Have you noticed? She gets louder, laughs more, finds reasons to sit next to him. She remembers everything he says, his job, his schedule, what he's working on. I searched my memory. Holidays, dinners, birthdays. I hated that I could see it now. She volunteered to help him move, Ethan said. Drove 2 hours to his place. But when I asked her to help us with your engagement party, she said she was too exhausted. A cold thread ran through my chest. You think she has feelings for him? I asked. Ethan let out a humorless laugh. After what I watched her do to you today, I think she's capable of anything. I wrapped my arms around myself. Emma was engaged. Had been for years. Everyone talked about her relationship like it was perfect, stable, mature, enviable. What does that have to do with me? I asked. Ethan glanced at me. That's what I've been trying to figure out. We pulled into a quiet parking lot and sat there, engine idling. If Emma's unhappy, I said slowly, thinking through each word, if she's stuck in a relationship that doesn't give her what she wants, and then she looks at us. Ethan finished the thought. And sees something real. The realization settled between us, heavy and uncomfortable. She didn't just want to hurt you, he said. She wanted to level the playing field. I swallowed hard. If she could make our relationship look fake, I whispered, then she wouldn't be the only one living a lie. Ethan reached for my hand, his grip firm. Then we're going to find out the truth. How? I asked. He looked at me, eyes sharp with a resolve I hadn't seen before. We start with the person who knows her best. I knew exactly who he meant. Her fiancé. And suddenly, I wasn't afraid anymore. I was done being confused. I wanted answers. We didn't text first. We didn't warn anyone. Ethan parked across the street from Emma's house, the porch light glowing like a spotlight. Her fiancé's car was in the driveway. My pulse hammered so hard it felt like it might crack my ribs. Are you sure? Ethan asked quietly. I nodded. I need to hear her say it. We knocked. It took a few seconds before the door opened. Mark stood there in sweatpants and a wrinkled t-shirt, confusion written all over his face. Hey, what's going on? We need to talk, Ethan said. About Emma. Mark hesitated, then stepped aside. She's in the living room. Emma was on the couch, scrolling through her phone like nothing in the world was wrong. When she looked up and saw me, her mouth curved into a small, smug smile. Wow, she said lightly. That didn't take long. I didn't sit. You told my fiancé I married him for money? I said. My voice surprised me, steady, flat, cold. You told my parents. You lied. Emma rolled her eyes. I told them what you told me. That never happened. Mark frowned. What's going on? Emma stood, crossing her arms. She's upset because she got caught. Caught doing what? Mark asked. I stepped closer. Tell him, Emma. Tell him why you really did this. Her smile flickered. Just for a second. Don't start, she snapped. You've always loved playing the victim. Ethan moved beside me. We're done pretending. We know about Ryan. The room went still. Mark's head snapped toward her. Ryan. Emma laughed too quickly. Oh my God. Are you serious? You're accusing me of what? Having a crush on a cousin? You light up when he walks into a room, Ethan said. You cancel plans with Mark but drive hours for Ryan. You remember everything about his life. That doesn't mean anything, Emma shot back. Then why did you tell people I married for money? I asked. Why not any other lie? Emma opened her mouth. Closed it. Mark looked between us, his face paling. Emma? I took another step forward. You needed my relationship to be fake. Stop, she hissed. You needed it to look transactional, I continued. Because if mine was real, if Ethan actually loved me, then you were the only one pretending. That's not true. Then say it, I said. Say you're happy. Silence. Mark swallowed. Emma, are you happy? Her eyes darted away. The air felt tight, electric, like the moment before a storm breaks. I tried, she said finally, her voice cracking. I really did. My chest tightened. Tried what? Tried to love him, she burst out, pointing at Mark. Tried to make it enough. Mark staggered back like he'd been slapped. Enough for what? For who? Ethan asked. Emma's shoulders shook. Tears spilled over, messy and uncontrolled. Nothing like the performance at my parents' house. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, she sobbed. I thought it would fade. I thought if I stayed close enough. Close to who? Mark demanded. She shook her head violently. I can't. I grabbed her arms. Say it. Her breath hitched. I love Ryan. The words crashed into the room like shattered glass. Mark made a sound I'd never forget. Raw, broken. You're engaged to me. I know, she cried. I know. I thought marrying you would fix it. That I could force myself to feel the way I was supposed to. And when it didn't, I said quietly, you couldn't stand watching me have what you didn't. Emma collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. You don't understand what it's like to wake up every day knowing you chose wrong. I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing but a cold clarity. So you tried to destroy my life, I said. You told everyone I married for money. You tried to turn Ethan against me. Because if I was just like you, if my relationship was fake too, then you wouldn't be alone. She didn't deny it. Mark straightened slowly, something dead in his eyes. Get out, he said. Emma looked up. What? Get out, he repeated. I don't care where you go. She reached for him. Mark, please. Now. She grabbed her purse and stumbled past us, not looking back. When the door slammed, the house fell silent. Mark sank onto a chair, staring at the floor. I gave her years. I turned away, my hands shaking, not from fear anymore, but from the release. The truth was finally out. And nothing could put it back. No one spoke for a long moment. The house felt hollow, like the air had been sucked out with Emma when she left. Mark sat motionless, staring at the same spot on the floor as if he expected the answer to appear there. I didn't even see it, he said quietly. 6 years. How do you not see something like that? You see what you're ready to see, Ethan replied gently. Mark let out a shaky laugh. I thought I was doing something wrong, that I wasn't exciting enough, or ambitious enough. I kept trying harder. His voice cracked. Turns out, I was never the point. Guilt pressed heavy in my chest. Mark hadn't just lost a fiancé. He'd lost years of his life to a lie he never consented to. I'm sorry, I said. You didn't deserve this. He nodded, eyes glassy. Thank you for telling me, even if it hurts. Outside, the night was quiet. Too quiet. We drove away, without music, without conversation. My body felt exhausted in a way sleep wouldn't fix. The adrenaline was gone, leaving only bruises I couldn't see. She tried to make us ugly, Ethan said eventually. She wanted what we have to be fake. She needed it to be fake, I replied. Otherwise she'd have to face the fact that she chose wrong. My phone buzzed, then buzzed again. Messages from family. From numbers I hadn't heard from in months. Emma is devastated. How could you embarrass her like that? This didn't need to be handled so publicly. Not one message asked if I was okay. I stared at the screen until it went dark. They're still protecting her, Ethan said softly. They always will, I answered. And strangely, saying it didn't hurt as much as I thought it would. But I'm done fighting for a place where I'm only welcome if I stay quiet. When we got home, I kicked off my shoes and sank onto the couch. My body trembled, the delayed reaction finally catching up. Ethan sat beside me and pulled me into his arms. You didn't lose anything tonight, he said. You shed what was already hurting you. I rested my head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, steady, real. Emma had wanted company in her misery. Instead, she lost everything she was pretending to protect. And for the first time since this started, I felt something that wasn't fear or anger. I felt free. The next morning, Sunlight spilled through the curtains like nothing had happened. The world hadn't ended. Time hadn't stopped. And yet everything was different. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee I barely touched, rereading the messages I hadn't answered. Some were angry. Some were disappointed. Most were written as if I were responsible for holding everyone else together. I set my phone face down. For the first time, I didn't feel the urge to explain myself. Ethan came up behind me and kissed the top of my head. "You okay?" I thought about it. About losing people I'd spent years trying to earn love from. About being misunderstood. About how close I came to letting someone else rewrite my story. I said finally, because I know what's real. Emma tried to make my relationship look transactional, cold, calculated, because that was the only way she could survive her own choices. But love doesn't need a performance. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't collapse the moment someone whispers a lie. Ethan never asked me to prove myself. He stood next to me when it would have been easier to step back. He listened when others chose not to. He saw me fully and stayed. And that was something no one could take away. I learned something important through all of this. Not everyone who shares your blood wants your happiness. Not everyone who smiles at you is on your side. And sometimes protecting your peace means walking away, even when it hurts. Emma wanted me small, defensive, ashamed. Instead, I chose clarity.
I chose truth.
And I chose the life I built. Honestly, painfully, and without apology. She tried to destroy what I had.
She failed.
Because what's real doesn't break that easily.